Hi, my name is Jeremy Hallett, and I'm a student here at Indiana Wesleyan University, and my presentation is on the development of a multi-neutron filter for MONA. So what is the MONA collaboration? The MONA collaboration is a group of undergraduate institutions that work together to study the decay of rare isotope beams. Um, so the collaboration has something called the modular neutron array. This is a neutron detector that's composed of 144 plastic scintillator bars. Each end of the bar has a photomultiplier tube, and every single bar has the capability of detecting both energy and timing. Historically, with the collaboration, it's been very difficult to determine the difference between a single neutron event and multiple neutron events. So if you look at this diagram right here, we have a single neutron coming in and scattering in the array twice. That looks very similar to two neutrons coming in and hitting the array in different areas. So right now, there are different causality cuts that can be applied that help us separate those two kinds of events. But what I tried to do over the summer was create a better filter that helped us better analyze multiple neutron systems. So one way I went about creating this filter was by studying something called the neutron spacetime interval. Basically, what the neutron spacetime interval does is it compares two hits in our array and then determines whether those hits are causal or not. Um, so here we can see that I've plotted angle versus NSI. Any data point to the left of the origin tells us that those two hits are not causal, and that is the non-causal region. And then any hits to the right could either be causal or non-causal. So in order to cut out the single neutrons, so we're left with only the multiple neutron events, what I did was I plotted a single neutron data set in the angle versus NSI plot. And what you can see is there's this cluster of single neutrons in the lower right-hand region. So what we can do is we can cut those out, and what we're left with is only multi-neutron events when we're looking at a data set containing both multiple neutrons and single neutrons. Another tool that I use to create this multiple neutron filter is something called Proton Crosstalk. Proton Crosstalk is when a neutron enters the array and there's a charge exchange reaction and an outgoing proton hits an adjacent bar. Um, so there's not enough energy in the outgoing neutron to create another proton crosstalk. So if we see two proton crosstalks taking place in our detector, we know that that was two neutrons. Um, so what we can do is we can start to label these things. If we see a proton crosstalk, we label that as a doublet. And if we see just a single scatter in the array, we label that a singlet. And we can actually combine these in several permutations to help us create this filter. So the actual filter that I wrote is a combination of the proton crosstalk and the NSI causal gate. And the way it works is it's a macro file that searches for doublet events and singlet events, and then it uses the NSI plot to make sure those aren't causally connected. So whenever we have an event that meets those criteria, it gets thrown into either a 3N data set or a 2N data set. After creating this filter, I applied it to a beryllium-15 data set, and I found that um, events where there are two singlets or three singlets for a three neutron event in our array, those events were actually the most probable, and you can see that in these plots here, these being the total and right here being the SSS and the SS events. Um, Furthermore, we were really encouraged because we saw an increase of almost a factor of 2 in the number of counts we got for 3N analysis, as you can see here. Looking forward, there are certainly future developments we'd like to make with this multiple neutron filter. One such improvement would be to extend the scope of the code to include all multiplicities. Furthermore, we'd like to properly order all the neutron hit numbers. This will make creating plots for our decay energies much easier. Also, we'd like to develop a new way to distinguish between gamma rays and other hits in the array. Right now, gamma rays input a very small amount of energy, so we're just cutting out energy that's below that threshold. We'd like to actually include that energy, those lower energies, because there are neutrons in there we would like to study. So we'd like to see a new way of determining what is a gamma ray. And as always, I'd like to thank the MONA collaboration for their support and advice throughout this whole process, as well as the National Science Foundation for their funding. I'd also like to thank Indiana Wesleyan University for allowing me to do research on their campus. Thanks so much for watching.